welcome to episode 7 of the Production Roundtable series. I'm Evan Clary, and today I'm joined by Mike D'Angelo, the president of the AICC. Mike, how are you doing today?
Very good, Evan. It's a pleasure to be with you. I truly appreciate being able to join you like this. And I think that episode 7, that's quite an accomplishment right there. I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing, and we're happy to be a part of it and to support you.
Well, I'm thinking about renaming the show the Quarantine Chronicles.
Well, I mean, that has a certain cachet to it, but I think the important thing is, like everyone, you're trying to create a forum for communication, since we know so well that your business, AICC's business, is a handshake and a smile business, and it's lacking. It's sad that we're not able to do that because we are limited in our travel and with what's going on in the country with the pandemic. So creating a forum like this, I think, serves a lot of purposes, not just for your company, but also for the ability to share information and share the word about things that are important and things that are maybe not so important to your company, but important to the industry in general. So you're really providing a public service that we appreciate.
Well, we're trying to bridge the gap and maintain some conversations with people that we otherwise might not see. During the trade shows and during the regional meetings, I travel around and I see a bunch of people, but while we're all in this limited quarantine basis and travel is restricted, I'm not seeing the same people that I normally would. And so I'm trying to have the same conversations that I might, but record them just for the industry's use, and hopefully people find them beneficial. But it's been fun. That's the number one thing so far. We've really enjoyed it, and I certainly enjoy the networking and the fun side of it too.
Well, you got to have fun, or you got to do something else. So
that's exactly right. All right, Mike. So the AICC just closed its fiscal year June 30th. What is the state of the association right now?
Well, we have some uncertainty, just like everyone else does. When the pandemic hit us back in, let's say, late February, early March, where we began to kind of, sandbag a few things and try and shore things up, we were a little bit more than halfway through our fiscal year. So we were lucky in one sense that we had several opportunities that companies that begin their fiscal year January 1st didn't have to put some pelts on the wall in terms of successful meeting in Toronto, successful regional meetings, other events. But then we got hit pretty hard, and the state of the association, I was hopeful to have the year-end non-audited financial numbers today. I'm going to get them tomorrow, so we're a little bit early on that. But I'll say this, our revenue is down about $725,000 year to date when we look at things from a revenue point of view. That's the bad news. I guess so good news, bad news, our expenses are down a little over $500,000. So there is a gap, unfortunately, in those two differences. But the good news is the projected loss that AICC was going to have, we're a nonprofit. We try and operate on a break-even basis. Our projected loss had shrunk by $100,000 from the April result to the May result. So I'm hoping that some further things that we did from a belt tightening point of view will follow through in June and shrink that even further and get us a little closer to a break-even. I'll report fully on the financial result in the November-December issue of Box Score, which every AICC member gets. We'll probably put something out ahead of time, since you won't see that until around December 1st. But we always give a full accounting of AICC's results. Our audit is scheduled for the middle of August, so there's never any tomfoolery or anything like that going on. So from the financial point of view, I think the state of the association is strong. We have not had to dip into our reserves at this point in the pandemic. I don't anticipate having to dip into the reserves. The real good news is, and the most gratifying news, Evan, is that our renewals are very strong. We're ahead of last year, fiscal year 2019. We're in fiscal year 2020. to 2020. We're in fiscal year 2021 now, but our renewal revenue and our renewal number in terms of members that have renewed is running ahead of last year. And I would not have anticipated that in an environment of uncertainty. So it tells me that AICC has pivoted its programming and some other things to remain of use and of necessity to be an invaluable partner to our members, both box making and associate, the supplier members. So I feel really good about our financial wherewithal. Our reserves are very strong. I mean, in terms of having a plan B or a cushion, AICC has money in the bank. We own the office suite in Alexandria, Virginia, that I'm speaking to you from right now. So assuming that this is a longer term event, I think we'll still be in pretty good shape, but I'm hoping this is not a longer term event, although we seem to be falling back rather than moving forward in some parts of the country right now. So
we do, especially down here in South Carolina. It seems like we're doing that. And, you know, luckily this hurricane doesn't seem like it's going to hit too hard, because one of the big concerns I had was that if the hurricane hit hard and people were forced to relocate or, you know, go into stadiums or things like that, where sometimes they have temporary housing, I was worried about the COVID rates there. But when you were talking about your renewal rate or your retention rate, I'm really not surprised to hear that your numbers are so high. And the reason for that is I think that you guys have pivoted extremely well to providing value to people during the pandemic thus far. I can remember the COVID-19 calls that you guys were doing, and I think still do on an occasional basis. And I think, you know, obviously the attendance to those Zoom calls was very high and very strong, but it had a lot of very good value, both from the economic standpoint and just box makers communicating with one another. I thought it provided a lot of value to them. Even as a supplier, I saw a lot of value in it. So it's not a huge surprise to me that your numbers are going to be very good as far as the retention rate, because I think you guys have pivoted and now are considered a vital resource to other people.
I appreciate that. And we've changed a lot of our programming. We're going to take the month of August off in terms of the video conferences on Friday, where we go on to every other Friday, just because, you know, everybody needs a break. And I think that there's a certain amount of Zoom fatigue and things like that. We're going to come back. We're going to come back in September with something. We're not going to make them COVID calls per se, although I imagine COVID will still be an important topic and an important component of them. We're going to pivot to every other Friday calls that we will have moderated by a panel of box makers is our plan. We're still putting these plans together. That's our hope. So when you talk about pivots, we continue to pivot. Maybe we haven't gone 180 degrees yet. If we keep pivoting, we'll be back to where we were. So I think 360 is the wrong example also. But we're trying to continually update our programming. The other, you know, so that's trying to change the programming that we offer members as we develop it going forward. The other real illuminating thing about AICC engagement since the pandemic began is the explosion by membership's use of the packaging school. It was always very strong since it became included with the membership back in 2017, but we had utilization and access rates in the 300%, 400% increase compared to the previous period in the previous year. Lucky for us, we've got over 80 courses up on packaging school, AICC's packaging school now. Also lucky for us, about 25% of those courses are available in Spanish now. So there's always something new for people to access. So that was important. And I mean, I'm glad that our members were doing that, especially those that were collecting PPP, because time was and is, since PPP is still a valid program, training time is eligible for PPC payments. So even if you've got employees that are on the payroll but are not necessarily working on the machine or on the floor or in the office or working from home, if they are spending time being trained through AICC's packaging school, they are still eligible for their compensation, and that compensation can be covered by PPP. So I'm glad we did that. We continue to pivot along those lines. Starting in September, we will have a whole new series of webinars. We've always had a lot of webinars, but we now have basically got about 50 webinars identified that we will put on between September of 2020 and August of 2021. These will be available to members on a individual basis. They will be for a price. They will not be for free because there are production costs involved and we have to pay for subject matter expertise and things like that. But we're also going to be introducing shortly the AICC All Access Pass, which will be a singular price. We haven't decided on what that price is quite yet, but we'll begin advertising it soon, that if paid by a member company, that will give them all access to all 50 webinars and all of their employees access to all 50 webinars. So that something that may make sense for somebody in accounting can be attended by the folks in accounting. Something that makes sense for someone in customer service can be attended by someone in customer service, et cetera. There's going to be something for everybody. It's going to be broad. And it's going to be something that will allow members to engage remotely as they do with the packaging school, but it'll be completely separate in terms of the educational content. Some of these courses may end up in packaging school, or topics may end up in packaging school, but we continue to evolve AICC's program, and we continue to watch developments. AICC's meetings are dark through the end of 2020. We're maintaining schedule right now in 2021. We're hopeful to be able to put on our spring meeting at Amelia Island at the end of April. I'm hopeful that that'll be a big coming out party for the industry at that point in time.
Well, that would be good. It would be much needed.
Yeah,
everybody's emergence from quarantine.
Ready to get out. It'll be safe for everybody to get out, but we've got to be flexible. Maria Frustacci, who's our director of Latin America, she and I were just talking this morning. We have a Latin American meeting that was supposed to be in May, which we postponed to December. We're probably going to postpone that again just because things in Mexico aren't going along as well as they should be, just like things here in the States aren't going well as they should be. One country that seems to have it under control is Canada, and AICC Canada currently has in their schedule their golf outing in the Toronto area for the end of September, which will be great for Canadians. Of course, no one from America can go up into Canada right now because the border's closed. But we're happy that at least at this point, our Canadian colleagues may be able to get together, and it'll give us some instruction on how to proceed with meetings in a pandemic or post-pandemic environment. Everything is
sure.
There's a lot of education going on, and we're spending a lot of time, AICC staff members, learning about what we need to do to be ready for when we dip our toe back into the water of putting on meetings and things like that. But we'll try and maintain value for as long as we can in every other format and platform possible, such as this one.
Well, it's good to hear. The education, the AICC education, I think is extremely important, and it's a vital resource for box makers. I'm pleased to hear that more people are using it. I think obviously we have so much industry specific knowledge to the corrugated box industry. It's extremely important, and it's difficult as a new hire, as a young person, to come into this industry and immediately immerse yourself and learn everything quickly because there is so much industry specific knowledge. When you hear people talking about jumbo flexo folder gluers, it sounds like nonsense. And then you delve into the information and then it starts to make some more sense. But speaking of Canada and Mexico, how are, generally speaking, AICC member businesses doing during this time?
Well, from the feedback that we get, and we talk to a lot of members in all of these places, that generally speaking, the box business is holding up. I think that's to some folks a little surprising given the fall off in economic activity with the most recent quarter contracting about 9% in the States. But box business, because of disruptions in supply chains, certainly with the run up in e-commerce business, People are generally speaking positive. Generally speaking, they're busy. There are folks that have said, well, it's been a little quiet, or they have a slow week, but then it's followed by a fast week. No one is basically waving the flag saying that we're facing a disaster right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Little different experiences in the U.S. Obviously, for independent box makers, there has been some government assistance in a number of different programs available. We mentioned PPP, the CARES Act, the FFCRA, and all of the other acronyms. Whatever package our friends across the river here are working on now over the coming weeks should hopefully be of some benefit to our member companies. Situation in Mexico is a lot different. The government's not been in a position, and I guess that's pretty normal down there, to step in and intervene and assist companies the way there are potential systems. Even the ability to get SBA loans outside of the PPP is something, and I know the Fed's working on the Main Street lending program, things like that, that if things continue to get tight, can be of use for box making members. Canada's got some programs for companies as well that give hope. But from a general market point of view, I think because of what's going on in the supply chains and because of what's going on in e-commerce, generally speaking, the business has held up. We've spoken to a couple of members that are basically have said they're actually ahead of last year. And last year was a good year, as you well know. From an associate's point of view, from our suppliers, so many of them are probably like you, just itching to get back out on the road and get in front of folks. But they've got their own challenges. Getting technicians, especially if they have to come from overseas. We had some email exchanges about that last week, and the national interest exceptions that seem to be coming online now to overcome some of the travel restrictions. And this is a good program. It's all driven through the local U.S. embassies or consulates in the countries. And if the viewers of this podcast aren't familiar with the National Interest Exceptions Program, where there are travel restrictions from many parts of the world because of COVID, for technical expertise, you can go through the embassy and apply for getting technicians, software specialists, commissioning engineers, things like that for new equipment that has sizable value that could be sitting on a loading dock or have already been installed but not started up on a plant floor. You can get that expertise with a waiver from the U.S. government for a specific function, by that meaning taking care of the installation, and for a specific period of time. And AICC has shared that. AICC shares a lot of information, Evan, at aiccbox.org/COVID. And there is a complete chain of what we have shared with members that goes back to, I believe, about March 17th, that you can just scroll down on that website from today, which you have a listing that is for the week of August 3rd. We've gone to weekly updates, although we might put something in every day as opposed to daily updates. Kind of shows the evolution to your question of what was going on with the pandemic in March and April, where stuff was happening every day that we had to inform people about. And things have calmed down to a certain point. The most effective thing that we have at that website, I believe, because things are different for our members in all 50 states when we talk about the US-based members. The first link that we have on that website that I mentioned is one to an NAM, National Association of Manufacturers website, that shows the latest updates on a state-by-state basis. Because you could have a state that's done nothing for 6 weeks, nothing's changed, and you can have a state that's changed things 3 times this week. And that's the way to keep up with it. They also track some of the larger jurisdictions within a state. If LA or San Francisco or New York City is doing something that is over and above what the state's doing, they tend to capture that as well. And that's the first listing above everything else that we do or add at that website. So the national interest exception information we reprised last week. But again, anything that may be of interest to you, or if you just want to refamiliarize yourself with some of the links, some of the programs, some of the remedies, you could just scroll back through time, going back to March, at that website, and you've got all of the AICC updates. So
You post
as
recordings of all of the COVID meetings on that page,
that's
don't you, as
correct. The
well?
YouTube, we did the Zoom meeting we did it every week for a long time. Then we went to every other week, all topically based. And you can pick up the YouTube recordings, plus all of the supporting slides are also available on that website. That's available on the Monday after each of those events took place. So don't go scouring around for that on a Thursday. You won't find it. But if you are looking for specific topics, and you'll see everything there as you scroll, those are on the Mondays after those things happen. So we try and keep that page alive and timely, but we're just not doing it on a daily basis unless we get something that we have to share.
Sure. Just post as needed for the members. And speaking of the members, what unique things have you seen them do so far, throughout this economic crisis, throughout coronavirus? Has anybody done anything extremely unique that you've noticed?
Well, I'd answer the question this way, Evan. I mean, pre-pandemic, I find what our members do to be amazing, because they are entrepreneurial and they innovate in so many ways, and they're cutting edge. I mean, I saw a stat the other day. In fact, it was proofreading an article that Ralph has posted for Box Score, which will be in the next issue. I'll give you a little teaser. The majority of multicolor single pass digital presses in the United States, by an overwhelming, I forget the number, if it's 70%, 80%, are owned by independents. So I mean, they are innovative by nature, and you know this. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But to your question, they continue to amaze me. First of all, going back to early in the pandemic, when we were all fighting a battle where some state governments inexplicably didn't understand the real term of what is an essential business. And they would say, the food business, if you're in the food business, you're an essential business. But they never once understood that the food's got to travel someplace in a package. And I was on the phone with a couple of people in secretaries of state's offices explaining that, member companies that were told they can't open have to open, or the food chains, goes down, things like that. But then the challenge for our members, in my estimation, was staying open. To a company, they have been laser focused on making sure that their employees are well, and that they are taking the steps necessary through all of this to keep their employees well. Have we been 100% successful as an industry? No. We have had employees, workers at AICC member companies that have contracted the virus and have lost time on the job because of it. And, machine centers have had to go down and they've had to be cleaned. And then, but our members have learned from it. They've made adjustments, and they've done a yeoman's effort to get PPE for their members, to do, or for their employees, to do the right things for their employees, the ones that are working from home, keeping them connected to the mothership, even though they're working from home, with the kids running around, or they're sitting at the kitchen table or doing whatever. And we know of one member that actually did like drive-through neighborhoods where their employees were working from home to applaud what they were doing. And then those folks that were working from home drove by the plant, stayed outside to applaud what the folks that were on the job in the machine centers, on the plant floor, what they were doing. We've had member companies that have real innovation, that have gone into, purchased, invested automated kiosks, so that, someone punching a time clock doesn't have to, interact too closely with anyone else, and they get their temperature taken at the same time. Driving a lot of technology, trying things, and sharing this with other members on those Friday calls and through some of the links that we've got up at the website. And the preparing PPE for not just their own workers, but for first responders and hospital workers and whatnot, and participating in any way possible. I got a raft of masks here in my cabinet that were produced by a member that they sent to us because they wanted the folks at AICC to be safe. And the folks at AICC, thank you all very much, have been quite well through all of this. We went to remote work back in March. We're still on remote in accordance with Virginia's request. It's a nice, polite Southern state, so they request us to work from home if we can. I'm in the office because it's easy to, when you're a staff of 10, it's easy to socially distance if 8 people are working from home and Maria and I are here in our offices today. And we've got protocols here in the building to stay safe, not just on our floor, but to come in and out of the building. So AICC members are amazing. They're amazing because of the heart that they have, not just for their employees, but the heart that they have for each other and the openness that they have to share information. You know, Mike, send me an email. They've sent me emails. Share this with the members. Tell the members, here's what we're doing, and we've had a good result. You know, and in some cases, these are competitive companies. But
yeah,
we're all in this, you know, it's a cliche now. We're all in this together. It's another cliche out of an abundance of caution. But you know what? These are important things, and our members have never lost sight of it, be they box-making members, be they associate members, of what's important. And that's the great thing about
Mike,
our community here.
It's very interesting to me because obviously you have much more time and tenure in the industry than I do, but 3 years in, I can see just in my brief stint in the industry how much these companies care for their employees. And that is extremely unique. You know, I haven't worked in lots of other industries, but I can't fathom that everybody cares about their employees as much as the AICC members do. I just can't see it.
I tend to agree. I've spent most of my life in this industry, but you know, since I've got a few more years on you, Evan, I have seen a few things, and I would agree that the care that this industry has for their employees, for each other, for their association, for their suppliers. I mean, it is we're very lucky.
Even as competitors, when I go to trade shows, I'm friends with my competitors. And I mean, literally friends. We'll go have a drink, we'll go have dinner, we'll hang out, and we don't talk, you know, real competitive business, but we can legitimately be friends. And I feel like that is extremely unique as well. And I'm a supplier, so I'm friends with my competitive suppliers as well. But the AICC members are generally, I find them to be sometimes regionally competitive, but at the same time, very good friends with one another. And I think that's also unique. And the knowledge sharing between AICC members is a really, really valuable resource for them as well.
Well, as you know, I spent most of my career on the supplier side of the business like you are, and I enjoyed the time spent with my colleagues from my competitors. I learned a lot from them. There were a few of them that took me under their wing when I was a young guy like you. And yeah, I think that's almost unheard of in a lot of the other industries that are out there that we're familiar with. And you know, it builds a legacy of giving back at some point. I mean, that's what I'm doing now. I think with my life and my career, I'm trying to give something back because so many people helped me, and I'm in a very unique position to do so with a very unique platform to do so with the AICC, because the AICC is effectively the membership, and that's what makes it work.
Speaking of giving back and your leadership in the AICC now, what's the future of the AICC and what do you think you'll change moving forward? Is anything going to be done differently?
The answer is yes. I have no idea what, because we're doing things differently today that 6 months ago we couldn't have imagined we would be doing. So the important thing is, and if you've read my my current box score article, which came out in the get my months right, July August issue, I quote Yogi Berra, who famously said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Okay. And that's effectively how AICC has been working. We keep moving forward, trying this, trying that, doing this, doing that, trying to remain useful, helpful, relevant for our members as they go through their own struggle and travel, which is taking them to many forks in the road. But when you come to a fork in the road, take it means you got to do whatever's necessary to provide value, to deliver the goods. AICC's mission is very simple. We have a very simple phrase: when you invest and engage, meaning a member, AICC delivers success. Delivering success is a high bar, which means we've got to be open to everything that's available to us in order to deliver that success. I don't know what that is going forward because I don't know what curveballs are going to continually be tossed to us. What I can guarantee to everyone watching this is we are not afraid of changing course. We are not afraid of taking a fork, even though the road curves around a set of trees right after that we don't know where it goes or what it's going to do, but we're going to try. We're going to do the best we can, and we're going to continue to be relevant. We're going to continue to be innovative. We're going to continue to be connected, and we're going to continue to deliver success, because that's the only bar that we use to measure our value to our members.
Well, it's good to hear. We all have to adapt and continue to roll with the punches here as these curveballs keep coming. Hopefully, the rest of 2020 will be smooth sailing and these coronavirus numbers will drop. There won't be any massive hurricanes here that I have to worry about. Hopefully, everything just starts to subside and we have a wonderful 2021. But in all reality, as you said before, it seems like we're going to be dealing with coronavirus. It's here to stay, unfortunately. At least for the remainder of the year. So we all must continue to adapt and identify what our new normal will be. But like you said, 6 months ago, if you told me I would be sitting here interviewing you as part of this podcast and the rest of the episodes that I've done, I would have told you were out of your mind. Yep. But these are the adaptations that we've made. And I know AICC's been all over it and they've made a lot of changes. And, you know, I'm trying to adapt. I think everybody is. So we're all continuing to make changes, and at the end of the day, it's a tough time, but we're all going to try to get through it.
There used to be one of my mentors had and this is 100 years ago, had a picture in his office of dinosaurs that said, "In a changing world, if you do not adapt, you will perish." And the world changes every day here, and we have to adapt. And I mean, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, from a COVID point of view, I keep thinking about is, I think about all of those folding cartons and corrugated boxes that are going to be necessary to ship the hundreds of millions, if not billions, of doses of vaccinations once there is a vaccination. And that's going to be Absolutely. Such a happy event from a business point of view and a happy event from a human point of view that we'll all get to participate in, because again, nothing gets to where it's got to get to without AICC member companies.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely. That is going to be an exciting day when that news really breaks. Is. And like you said, it'll be exciting for the box business too.
It'll be a secondary victory for the box business, I guess, but we'll have to focus on the big human win first.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Mike. I've really enjoyed having you come on here. It's been a great pleasure. And, you know, I think the conversation speaks for itself. AICC is adapting, evolving, handling the coronavirus and the economic dislocation very well. And they're a great resource for all of the members and potential members out there. So thank you, Mike.
Evan, thank you very much on behalf of the entire AICC team for what JS Machine does and for the ability to speak to your podcast community. It's a great opportunity. It's always a pleasure. And again, I wish we were together someplace warm and exotic, but this was a pleasure. And if there's anything we can ever do for you and everyone watching this, give us a call at the AICC offices, and always stay current with AICC at aiccbox.org.